Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily Update YouTube channel. Today's topics. Y&R turned Sally into Billy's minder and lost what made her compelling. Sally has become a hard one to watch on Y&R. The young and the restless Sally has been reduced to Billy's babysitter and sidekick with no life or goals of her own. At this point, she is not the same character who debuted on The Bold and the Beautiful. Key takeaways: Sally needs more of a life than Billy. The once fiery fashion designer is long gone. It's time for a man break for Sally. Why Y&R is wasting Sally with Billy. There's no question that Sally Courtney Hope has always had and honestly needed a man in her life. From the moment fans met her on B&B, Sally was scheming for a guy. But at least she had her own agenda and goals. The past few years in Genoa City have seen Sally trade in her scheming ways to play second fiddle to a man. Especially since she and Billy Jason Thompson got together. Instead of working to get what she wants, Sally spends her time watching Billy like a hawk and taking her cues from him. One fan said it best when declaring on X, "I hate how Sally's only purpose is to babysit Billy and worry about him 24/7. A waste of an Emmy winner. Sally lost her spark. Sally got her job at Abbott Communications because of Billy. And honestly, half the time it doesn't even seem like she wants it. The drive she had during her fashion days is long gone now. Sally has a wishy-washiness about her that makes her only direction come from whatever man is in her life. Granted, it wasn't so bad when Sally was with Adam Mark Grossman or even Nick Joshua Morrow. However, Billy's constant need to destroy his life has made Sally a worrywart who constantly nags him. I find her constant harping annoying. She needs to give us all a break. Expressed a fan on Reddit, the change in Sally is a waste of Hope's talent. Fans would love to see writers give her some meatier material to work with, like when Sally and Adam lost their baby. Hope hasn't had that kind of material since then, and it's where she shines the most. The actress has many layers. All the writers need to do is have Sally channel her inner scheming ways for something that benefits her, not Billy. Perhaps this can happen through her friendship with Audra Zulicka Silver. Having Audra and Sally team up would be amazing to watch. They are both outsiders with a bad reputation in Genoa City and could wreak serious havoc on the town. What do you think about this version of Sally? Subscribe our channel for more latest update. When Sally Spectra arrived on The Young and the Restless, she was electric, bold, brilliant, emotionally messy, creatively fearless. Sally wasn't just another ambitious woman in Genoa City. She was a disruptor, a visionary, someone who made the canvas feel dangerous again. And then something quietly, devastatingly wrong happened. Instead of letting Sally remain her own force of chaos and creativity, Y&R slowly turned her into Billy Abbott's minder, the person whose primary narrative function became managing his impulses, cleaning up his messes, and grounding his emotional volatility. In doing so, the show didn't just sideline Sally's ambition, it erased what made her compelling. Who Sally Spectra was supposed to be to understand what's been lost. You have to remember who Sally was, not just who she's become. Sally arrived in Genoa City with a razor-sharp creative mind, unapologetic ambition, a willingness to take big risks, emotional honesty that bordered on recklessness. She wasn't perfect, and that was the point. Sally failed loudly. She loved fiercely. She wanted success not just for power, but for validation. She wasn't content to play safe or small. She wanted to matter. That made her dangerous. That made her unpredictable. That made her watchable. The shift. When Sally's story became about Billy, the transformation didn't happen overnight. It rarely does at first. Sally and Billy felt like equals to wounded creatives drawn together by shared frustration and outsider energy. Their connection made sense. But gradually, the balance shifted. Billy spiraled. Billy obsessed. And Sally steadied. Sally soothed. Sally advised. Sally waited. Her story became reactive rather than proactive. Instead of asking what does Sally want, the show began asking how does Sally help Billy. That's not character development. That's narrative shrinkage. From power player to emotional babysitter, let's call it what it is. Sally Spectra has been reduced to Billy's emotional regulator, Billy's voice of reason, Billy's damage control specialist, Billy's excuse generator. She doesn't drive story anymore. She responds to it, and that's a massive downgrade for a character built on momentum. Sally's intelligence is now framed as emotional labor rather than strategic brilliance. Her empathy has become obligation instead of choice. She's not evolving, she's containing. Why this dynamic is especially damaging. This isn't just about screen time or plot focus. It's about gendered storytelling, and Y&R should know better. Sally like many women on soaps, has been repositioned into the familiar role of the woman who fixes the broken man. It's a trope as old as daytime television. And it's exhausting. Billy's flaws are treated as complex and tragic. Sally's patience is treated as natural and expected. Billy spirals, Sally adapts. Billy lashes out. Sally understands. Billy refuses accountability. Allie absorbs the fallout. That's not romance. That's unpaid emotional labor. Billy Abbott hasn't earned this version of Sally. Here's the harsh truth. Billy has not grown enough to deserve this level of emotional stewardship. Billy continues to obsess over reckless decisions, externalize blame, confuse vendettas with purpose, and yet Sally is positioned as the stabilizing force who must temper him rather than challenge him meaningfully. Worse, the show frames Sally's presence as evidence of Billy's growth. Even when his behavior contradicts that narrative, Billy hasn't changed. The burden has just shifted. What makes this loss so frustrating? Sally is still there. You can see flashes of her old fire, in her instincts, in her frustration, moments where she almost pushes back, but those moments never fully land, because the story doesn't follow her. It follows Billy, and Sally exists to support his arc, not her own. That's the tragedy. Contrast this with Sally's earlier arcs. Surlier versions of Sally were making bold business moves, taking creative risks, clashing with powerful figures, owning her mistakes publicly. She was messy but self-directed. Now her messiness is minimized, her ambition is muted, her choices are filtered through Billy's needs. Sally didn't stop being compelling. The show stopped letting her be. Why this hurts Billy's character? Too ironically, this dynamic doesn't just hurt Sally, it weakens Billy, because instead of forcing Billy to face consequences, the show gives him a cushion. Sally's presence softens the impact of his actions. He doesn't have to truly confront himself because Sally is there to rationalize, contextualize, and emotionally manage him. That stalls his growth and it turns Billy into a man being carried rather than challenged. The power imbalance is the real problem this relationship lacks. Equilibrium. Sally gives more. Billy takes more. Sally adapts. Billy resists. That imbalance makes the relationship feel less like a partnership and more like a caretaker dynamic, and that's deeply unsexy. It also undermines Sally's autonomy. A woman as sharp and driven as Sally would not willingly disappear into someone else's emotional crisis indefinitely, unless the writing forces her to. What Sally should be doing. Instead, imagine an alternate reality where Sally is running her own high-stakes ventures, making enemies and allies, is failing and succeeding on her own terms, is clashing with power. Not babysitting it. Imagines Sally going head-to-head with Victor Newman, Audra, Charles, Diane Jenkins, rivals who fear her vision. That's the Sally fans signed up for, not the woman waiting in the wings, hoping Billy doesn't implode today. The emotional cost. Sally's identity is fading. One of the most damaging effects of this writing choice is how it dulls Sally's emotional complexity. She's no longer allowed to be reckless, angry, ambitious, without apologies, selfish, in interesting ways. Instead, she's calm, reasonable, supportive. Those traits aren't bad, but they're incomplete. Sally, Spectra, was never meant to be palatable. She was meant to be provocative. Fans see it and their frustrated fan reaction reflects this loss. Viewers aren't rejecting Sally, they're mourning her. They miss her edge, her unpredictability, her unapologetic ambition. They don't want Sally softened. They want her sharpened. And they're tired of watching another strong woman reduced to emotional scaffolding for a male character who refuses to evolve. The Rinse take. This is a failure of imagination from the Rinse perspective. Turning Sally into Billy's minder isn't just lazy, it's unimaginative. The show had an opportunity to explore two volatile creatives clashing. Let Sally outgrow Billy, force Billy to evolve, or lose her instead. It chose comfort over conflict, and comfort kills drama. How Y&R can fix this if it chooses to. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires courage. Y&R needs to give Sally an independent goal that doesn't involve Billy. Let her fail and succeed on screen. Allow her to challenge Billy without cushioning the fallout. Stop using her as emotional labor and start using her as narrative fuel. Sally doesn't need to be nicer. She needs to be louder. Final thoughts. Sally deserved better. Sally Spectra didn't lose her spark. Y&R buried it by turning her into Billy's minder. The show stripped away her ambition, her agency, her edge. What remains is a shadow of a character who once felt vital and dangerous. Sally was never meant to be someone else's stability. She was meant to be the storm. And until Y&R remembers that, it will keep losing what made her compelling in the first place.